everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We've got another fantastic guest lined up today. Ex-Bournemouth, Luton, Dundee United, Northern Irish International, Mr. Warren Feeney. How you doing, pal?
I'm very good, thank you. And as I say, thanks for inviting me on the show.
Nah, mate, it's our pleasure. Really excited to talk to you. First of all, how are you doing? What's been happening?
Obviously, and people say it's a break at the minute when you're managing, but it's probably your busiest time. You're trying to catch up in a lot of calls, and players depart clubs, and you're trying to get some in, and players are on their holidays, so it's probably the busiest time for a manager now. As I say, getting prepared for the new season.
Aye, well, I love playing chat manager, mate, so I don't really feel that sorry for you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you like playing? I like playing golf and poker.
Right, mate. So on this channel, we like to just start for the very, very beginning. You grew up in Belfast. What's your earliest memories, mate, of wanting to become a footballer and playing football?
I think probably it was in my family because if you look, my grandfather played, my father played, and right through my cousins, and I had a sister, Lindsay, who played hockey, but she had the brains of the family. And I just remember coming in from a young age where my dad used to take me to all the games. I used to throw my bag up the hallway where my sister, she studied and she went on to become a very successful lawyer. And as I said, you had one aim, just to be a footballer.
I think you mentioned you had a proper footballing family. How much do you think that shaped the path of your career?
It's a tough one. It's probably, probably my dad was my biggest critic, but in the right way. He had a fantastic career, and especially in Northern Ireland. I think he holds the goals to games ratio, but everyone says, "Oh, it's Warren Feeney's son." So there's a lot of, you could say pressure, but I never really seen it like that. He kept my feet grounded from a good family, my mum, my dad, and they kept me grounded. And as I said, it was a big thing because you know what football's like now. You see some kids where, look, I have my own son who's at a fantastic club now, but I keep him grounded because you see some of the kids that are interested in cars, they're interested in what watch bag I've got, where I'm going to my boy, you have plenty of time for that. Get your head down. I think that's the way it was with me when I was young. My dad used to take me everywhere. The games to watch on a Saturday in the morning, the training, and he just got it instilled into me early.
You started at Lisburn Youth and then moved on to St Andrews with a bunch of well-known names as well. How was that?
Yeah, it was a funny one because Lisburn and St Andrews were probably the two biggest boys' club, but I think it was 10 years of age was at Lisburn, and the funny thing was I was playing at I went to Strandtown of school, and I was just kicking around the corner flag with my mates, and it was funny. The owner of St Andrews was a guy called Joe Kincaid, who was also the Glasgow Rangers scout at the time. So he had come up to watch a schoolboy game, and he was standing watching it, but in the corner of his eye, seen me running around kicking the ball with my mates, and he went, "Oh, I like the look of this kid." So he come over, and to be honest, he asked me a question first, and I thought, and you can ask him this day, he said, "Hi, cheeky," I was to him back because, it was a stranger. But then I went back and took my dad and went up to St Andrews, and the rest was history. That some fantastic players went on. Stevie Cregan up there, Stevie Davis, Keith Gillespie, and it was a boys' club that I think he had. I seen Joe last summer, and we're actually seeing him next week. But I think we counted, he had 96 schoolboy internationals, and I think there was 13 went on to play in the senior team. So it shows you how much of a strong boys' club it was, and it made my mind up, really.
Aye, that's a crazy feat for such a. Would it be a small club? I would imagine.
Yeah, he had, what were the five age groups, and he wanted the best kids. He wanted elite kids. Danny Griffin, another one who you might remember, was at Dundee United, St Johnson.
Yep.
Danny was another one come through it, and as I said, he just wanted the best kids in the country, and for some reason we all ended up in St Andrews, and you'd Chris Brunt, I forgot another one. There was just so many off the top of your head, but he kept them. He was very harsh, Joe. He wasn't one to let you away with it, which I think everyone respected him for.
So obviously, run about that period, Leeds came calling.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about, mate? And what made you choose Leeds?
I was good over every weekend to clubs where nowadays I think the kids are only allowed two clubs a year, but I was coming in at weekends, flying to Leeds on a Friday night, training on a Saturday, playing the game on a Sunday, and flying home every weekend. And it was hard. There was no rest. Come Halloween, Christmas, I was maybe going Rangers one week, Man United one week, Chelsea one week at 12 the whole way up. That's just what you had to do. And, I'm not going to lie, I did get homesick. And when I went to Leeds had 24 other boys in a place called Thorpe Arch, which, we all lived together, and made it a little bit easier. But also you looked at the kids coming through Leeds at that time, and it made my choice easy. And as I say, I really enjoyed it. Really good times. Got on get in the first team squad twice, but injuries play your game. And as I said to you, they signed a player called Robbie Fowler and a player called Jimmy Hasselbank. So
Who?
that was the end of that.
Never heard of him.
It must have been all right.
You then went and loaned to Bournemouth. How was that when you were on loan to Bournemouth?
Yeah, you know what? It's probably from the footballing family of my father, because I knew you were high there, getting in and around it. But I knew, like one of them young boys, I need to get out and do something. I could sit there the rest of my contract, come the end of it, and then it's an absolute cattle market. But I thought, look, Bournemouth come in, wanted to take me on loan. It was probably the best move I made. I went down there and I had a very, very successful time in League One. And I decided I was 20 years of age, I want to go and play football. And, it was the best move I had, because, you're getting games under your belt in the league at 20 years of age. And I got a full season, and, I really enjoyed it down there. Really, really, with a good manager, good young squad. Richard Hughes, who's the director of football of Liverpool, Eddie Howe, Newcastle, Jason Tyndall. So you had a lot of went on to have a successful career. My brother-in-law Stephen Purchase at Newcastle, and you had a lot of young, hungry players at that time, and with a good group.
I've seen you praising Sean O'Driscoll quite highly, mate. So was he good for your career then?
You know what, he was, but I was probably Sean's worst nightmare, because he had you remember Peter Grant? Granty was his assistant, and
Legend.
I loved I love getting shouted at, and I love Granty. Granty, used to put me in my place, which I loved. Where Sean was very quiet, but I was probably Sean's worst nightmare, because looking back then, I didn't care what went on during the week. Just get me to a Saturday. I just wanted to play. And looking at it now, I try, and I'm the worst for my players, because I say you got to train hard to come Saturday, but come a Saturday, I could turn it on at 3:00, where I was probably the worst trainer until the last part of my career. It was something I look back on now with Sean, where the amount of battles I had with him and Granty that just let me play football.
After Bournemouth, you went to Stockport. How was that change?
It was funny, because Stockport were spending a lot of money at the time, and they were tipped for promotion. And Bournemouth had offered me a new deal, but I'd not asked to be top earner. I just wanted, parity in around the top 3, top 4, because I'd won the Player of the Year awards. And I'm not saying that, I was greedy, but we didn't come to an agreement. Stockport came in, the old Northern Ireland manager, Sammy McElroy, who gave me my debut for Northern Ireland, was the manager. And 3 days before a tribunal, they settled in a fee. And I went up there. And you know what? It was funny, because we spent a bit of money, brought in good players. We just went the other way and couldn't couldn't win games, but for some reason, I just couldn't stop scoring. I think I had 17, 18 goals in 30 games for a team bottom of the league. And we were talking about this the other day. I went for 150 grand in deadline day, and I think the boy Stansfield at Birmingham now went for 15 million in League One with less goals. So you're just looking at how crazy football is now, you know. But as I said to you, I had a really good time. Really, really enjoyed my time up there at Stockport. Good fans, good club, and it was just a shame that the better my career that I had to leave.
You touched on me earlier about Northern Ireland, mate. Obviously, your dad and that, and your granddad played for them. How was that feeling when you first get your cap? Because it 2002 that happened when you were at Bournemouth, is that right?
It did. It was funny because I made my debut for Northern Ireland senior team before I made my debut for the 21s. But I remember in Liechtenstein, Sammy McElroy took me away in the squad. And on the day of the game, Jim Mitchelton and Michael Hughes took me for a walk up the mountains and says, "Come on, kid, come with us." And they made it so relaxing for me. I can remember the conversation till this day. And then I went, and it was probably the proudest moment because your grandfather represented him, your father, and it was the third generation. And, you know, fingers crossed my boy will go and do for the fourth. We'll make absolute history. But no, it was just a great feeling.
How did you find the transition playing from League One football to Northern Ireland? I was only at Liechtenstein right now, but obviously you did play against higher teams. How was the transition to that?
You know what? We knew what we were. Look, we had players in the Premier League, players in Scottish football, players in the lower leagues, but you know, we didn't care. You know, we had some victories: England, Sweden, Denmark, Spain. You know, drew with Portugal, and you're just sitting there. We just, as I said, it was one of them. It's 11v11. You know, and we knew what we were. We didn't change for anyone, and as I said, it was a real good team spirit, which I think at times now in football, I don't know, it's moved on, but you see players now, they finish games, they're straight on their mobile phones or on Instagrams or on, you know, where we would have went in the players' bar together, if it's a Coke, have one pint or whatever, but we were, you know, we thought we had this siege mentality. If you hit one, you're going to hit us all. And, you know, that's a big thing that I think probably misses a little bit in football now.
Definitely. Social media's taken over, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
Must have helped when you were playing with a man like David Healy, but when he was banging them in against all these teams.
You know, when Healy, I think he broke Davor Suker's record. He had 13 in the qualifiers. And you know what? He's such a humble guy. He's one of my best mates, David. I couldn't speak highly of him. He's not forgot where he's come from, but you just knew when you were in a game close, if you got that ball in that box, he would pop up and score. And as I said to you, he was great. He had good players around him. Gillespie's, you know, I said Brunty there, Davo in the middle, Jonty. You know, it had good boys, Johnny Evans, with a real good group. But you just knew if you put that ball in that box, Dave, you'd be there.
Yeah.
So you're only at Stockport for a year, mate. Why is it that came an end and you end up going to Luton?
It's because, as I said, they were bottom of the league, and about six clubs come in for me that year on deadline day because I'd done so well at Barnsley, Huddersfield, Doncaster, Luton, and you know I wanted to go and play in the Championship. Luton tried to get me before, but I'd signed a pre-contract with Stockport, and obviously they were winning the league at the time, so I moved on deadline day. It's funny, my last game for Stockport was away to Huddersfield, and we got beat 5-3, and I scored a hat trick. And I'm sitting there going, "What a way to leave!"
I remember that.
But I left that Thursday on deadline day, and as I said, I turned down more money. It's funny, and as I said, you wouldn't get it now. I turned down more money in League One to go and play in the Championship because I wanted to test myself. And I'm not nailing players now, but you say up the player now, you know, this is what. It does it. They just go for the money. You know, players are prepared to drop 3 levels just to get more money, which I couldn't understand because as a player, you want to play as high as you can for as long as you can.
You see players going like from the Premier League to Saudi Arabia, which I would imagine being a greater standard of bit. It's all money in it. That's makes the world go round.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we had this with Tony, and I get it. Look, great player. He's at the top level, but the money they're on, it's not going to make a difference. The level they're at. And as I said to you, but he's wanted to go out there, and he's to be fair to him, he's went and scored 20 odd goals. It's good to see him in the England team. But the money that they get at that level in the Premier League, it's not going to make a difference. If you're going to Saudi Arabia for an extra 100 million, they're still, going to be sorted for life.
Well, you'll know more than us, mate. Obviously, that it's a very, very short career. So you need to make as much money as you can as well at that point.
Yeah, 100%. And even knocking around the lower leagues, in England, you could be made for life nowadays. If you're right with it, right down to the conference, or some conference teams paying money, level I'm at. But as I said to you, just got to be wise. But you've always got to have that desire, which I always want. I wanted to play football. I couldn't go to a club and sit there and be happy, to sit on the bench. I needed to go and play.
During your time in Luton, you ended up on loan at Cardiff. How did that come about, and how was your time at Cardiff?
It was funny because I was out of contract, and Swansea had come in for me, and they were in the league below, and Cardiff were in the Championship, and I was out of contract in the summer, so that both teams had bid for me in the January. I think it was 250 grand. Cardiff went, and that agreed a fee with Swansea as well, and I went down and agreed. This is funny. Agreed everything with Swansea and got a phone call. I was in the call. It was Cardiff. So I had to make an excuse, turn the car around, and head back up the road. No, but you know what? It was football, and as I said, I didn't end up going until the loan window, which was outside the January window, and that's why I agreed a deal. They had agreed a loan fee. I think it was 75 to 100 grand for 3 months, and I ended up going to Cardiff. But once I got into Cardiff, again, they signed, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbeck and Robbie Fowler. I thought, here we go again. 5 clubs come in for me, and I think I ended up. Did I go up I went to Swansea first, or did I go to Dundee United first? You probably know more than me.
Swansea.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Swansea. I remember Paul Sturrock was the Swindon manager, and the club wanted me to go to Swindon. They went no. I said I want to go to Swansea, and they went no. And I said I want to go to Swansea. And I said I'm not going anywhere because I needed to play. I was in the Northern Ireland setup, and I just wouldn't want to pick my money up. So I went down to Swansea, and I remember my first game was warming up. You think Rangers Celtic, but this was crazy. And I've mentioned this before, that this derby's brutal. And I was like, wow. And to be fair, my grandfather captained Swansea to the league, and my father was born there. So I had a bit of history. And but what I got, the lucky thing was I come on and scored the winner. So it made it a lot easier. And, I had nothing but great times down there, great stories. I learned as a manager to always be honest to players, because it was funny. And I still tell this story. It's an unbelievable story where, and I'll touch on it later with Levine, with Craig Levine. But I always say this: I've had managers before where you go in and, why am I not playing? Oh, keep doing this, keep doing that. I scored 2 goals on a Saturday for Swansea, and come the Tuesday night, I was left out of the team. So the steam was coming out of my ears. By the time the manager got into his room, I was right up his backside, and I went, Gaffer, are you in? My French. I said, Gaffer, are you taking that? He went, sorry. And he went, I said, I scored 2 goals, you've left me out. He said, sit down, Warren. He goes, what's your job? And I went, to score goals. He says, exactly. My job's to pick a team to win, and you're not in it. And I went, he's just hit me right between the eyes.
Oh, man.
Fair enough.
Must have
and you
felt
know
that
what?
big at that point.
And that guy was Roberto Martinez. And I thought, you know what? Cool as a cucumber. And I come on that with 20 minutes to go and scored against Swindon. And he came up to me after and he goes, just trust me. And that's where I learned always to be honest with players, where players will come in looking like me. I'm looking about myself, but you've got to see the bigger picture. And I said a great time at Swansea, got an injury at the end, which was good because I think I scored 5 and 10 goals. But I got an injury, and I I was out for the season, and it was just that they wanted to make the move permanent, but I would have missed the next 4 months, and I was gutted, to be honest, because I really wanted to go there. I really loved my time there.
I must admit, Warren, I did know that you went from Cardiff to Swansea, but I was going to say you got big balls for doing that, but I had no idea you were the Northern Irish Mo Johnson, mate.
Well, the funny thing was, I went back to Cardiff because it was alone when I got fit, and I'm not messing. I come on against Hull. I come on against Hull, and 90% of the stadium booed me.
I was just about to ask how the fans took to you.
But you know what? As I say to you, I'm crazy. I'm one of them. I enjoy it, but no, it was all good. I've got good friends still there, and you know, I had a good guy, Anas Abraham. You probably know me. Brought out a lot of books about the Soul Crew, which he was in. We ended up being friends, me and him. I actually took him up to an Old Firm game, which he had never been to. It was when the Ice Cloud was on. And it was the Ice Cloud, and at that time we had a semi-final against Leicester to get into the playoff final. And Dave Jones said, anyone late, it's a week's wages. And we were training on the Wednesday, and if you remember, the game was on the Tuesday. We're standing in the match. Next thing, the Ice Cloud, all flights are cancelled. We had to get a taxi from Glasgow down to Bristol to pick my car up, so I was ready for training the next day.
Dedication.
And he's, you know what? He's put it in his book as well. It's a funny story. But no. So all good.
So you said there that you had the chance to obviously you wanted to stay. Well, they tried to keep you, but you end up going to Dundee United. How did that come about, mate?
You know what? Another one where I just wanted to go and play. I knew going in there, and the games in Northern Ireland in the qualify. I just said I need to go and play football. Unless something comes up permanent, I'll go on loan, and it's right for me. I'm going to go on loan. Few clubs again come in, but I got a phone call from Craig Levine, and you know what? I loved what he said. I loved playing against his teams. And see, to be honest, I absolutely love my time at Dundee United. I put him in one of the best managers I worked with because it's the fittest I've ever been in my life. I mean, you weren't coming in on a Monday to do recoveries. We done 10 100-meter sprints. And you know what? And he said, if you're fit, you're mentally fit. You look that year, we played Rangers Celtic. None of them beat us home and away with good players. Big Sandaza, wee Floody, Gomez, big Streaky. You know, Scott Robertson, Conway. We had real good players, but he just drilled this mentality into us where, you know, we had no fear going to Parkhead, no fear going to Ibrox. And I must admit, he was a proper player's manager. He was ruthless, and that's what I loved. And as I said to you, he had a big help in my career. I played a lot up on the right for him as well. And to be fair, I knew my job. And as I said to you, I really, really enjoyed my time up there. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I'm surprised you got a game, mate. Craig Levine's not the biggest fan of forwards. So.
You know what? Well, as I said, I played up there for him at front, and then I played wide right. But he just knew what he got. I wasn't one of these blessed with skills where I'll do this and do that there. And I remember I lined up one day. He said, "You're going to play on the right." I went, "Brilliant, right? But it's a new position for me, right midfield." Who was he up against? McGeady. I thought, I said, "This will be fun." But to be fair to him, I just kept him coming in, and I'd done a job. And as I said to you, but I think the only time they beat us was in the semi-final of the cup. Remember, in penalties it went to at Hampden. Mm-hmm. But no, as I said, I love my time. You know, I was well looked after by the club up in a lovely house up in Carnoustie. Got introduced to the Arbroath Smokies, so you know, I enjoyed it.
Did you take a penalty in that game?
I scored. I scored. I think it was Floody. Floody missed. I think it was Floody.
Oh, shocker.
Big Lucas penalty was a belt on that game.
I think Floody's problem was he scored and then he knew he was going to Celtic, so that's why he missed on purpose.
That's what he probably did.
The only time you start talking, man, just start slagging Celtic. Look,
I like it.
More the merrier. I was going to ask, did you notice a massive difference coming up from England, like physicality or technique or anything like that?
You know what? I thought, yeah, I did, but I thought that the Scottish Premier League was more technical than I think the top. Well, it was in around the top six of, I would say top five, top six of League One, but also I think obviously the Rangers Celtic teams, you could put them in at that time. Celtic had some great players, Rangers too. Where I've always said this: give Rangers Celtic 2 years in the Premier League, they'll be up with the big boys because you've got the fan base, you'll attract the players. Like, I know there's some big clubs in that Premier League, but Rangers Celtic will take 100,000 to Brazil tomorrow. There's no issues, and I know where they are, and I've always said that there's no problem with them attracting players, and look, that's why I wanted to go and taste Scottish football, and I thought it was I thought they were technically good players. As I said, the boys that you look at the boys I had in Dundee United, that some of them all went on to play in the Championship easily playing the Championship. So as I said, it was a big part of my career, and I really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
How did it feel playing against your boyhood heroes, mate?
You know what? It's a funny story because Craig knew I was a blue nose, but he I'd scored. I'd know Durante and Coisty well, and obviously they were in Rangers at the time. So I'm one of them. Look, I'm professional no matter what. I'm down to do my job. So I used to go to, and I never missed an Old Firm game for about 5 years at Parkhead. Never went to Ibrox. Always went with away fans. Any game on the Saturday I played, straight up on the Sunday I was with the boys. So I used to go into the district bar where Durante obviously had a say with Davy Curry, who's now passed away. Bless him. But so I'd played obviously Rangers at Tannadice, and I remember, if you remember, I scored a header at the back post. I think it was Davy Ware and Big Jig, and that we went 2-1 up straight after half time. So I think it was Mendes equalised, and we drew 2 each. So after the game, Durante had lost his bat, and he went, "Don't ever come in my bar again." I thought he was joking. and if you look that time, I think I'd scored, and I never celebrated. And Craig Levine in the change room was laughing after. He brought me off in the 90th minute. But all my had mates all in the Rangers, then, with the 3 quarters. And a few of them were standing up clapping. That big streaky, go flip and celebrate. I went, Streaky, it's not against you. But I said, I'm going to have to go into a bar here, and they're all going to slap me in the face. I'm not doing it. So anyway, Craig Levine brought me off, and he was laughing after. He said, I brought you off on purpose to see what reaction you'd get. But Durante goes, "You're not allowed in our bar ever again." I went, "Durante, are you serious?" And he went, "I don't care, because I think Celtic went top of the league." So he went, "No, you're not coming in. You're out of order. You're this." And I went, I won't say, but I went, F you. So anyway, 3 weeks later, oh, he's mad. 3 weeks later, we played Celtic, and we were 2-0 down. And I managed to score the blue boots. I was sponsored by Puma at the time, so for a bit of fun, here's me. Look, I got to get the blue boots made up here for a bit of crack. Equalised, didn't I? And I
was at that game.
That's it. We drew 2. And you know what? We should have beat them. First half probably were on there a wee bit, but you look in the second half, I proper took the game to them. But I scored, and then by the time I got on the coach, I had 12 missed calls from me and Gerard and Coisty. Fino, it's a free bar, mate. You're allowed back in. The Rangers went back to the top of the league. But no, I always look out for Dundee United's results, because, as I said, I really, really loved my time up there. Really loved it. Still got good friends up there, and as I said, I really enjoyed it. It's a big part of my career. Big part of my career.
Was there ever an opportunity to maybe stay there permanently, or was it the loan in that shoe you were happy?
No, you know what? There was. I went on loan, but it was, and to be fair, it was just at that time. If you remember, I missed, I think, the last 4 or 5 games this season with a groin strain, which we all thought. But I was playing for, and this is where the injuries killed me a wee bit. I was playing for about 5-6 years with like an ache in my groin. So they kept putting cortisone injections in it every 6 months in my gracilis, thinking, like sometimes after games, it was right at Dundee United as well, where it probably got to the point where I couldn't move. I couldn't sometimes lift my leg to get it in the car, or put my trousers on. And I missed the last 5. It was that bad. I went back down to Cardiff. There was only 2 surgeons at the time who could do the operation. I had a Cam's defect to the hip, where the hip's like that, but mine was growing like this. So it got to the point where for those 6 years, it was just gone, where I was just thinking it was my groin. And I was ended up out for 5 months. There was no way they were going to do it. Failed a medical at Leeds as well because of it, because Leeds came in for me that summer. And as I said, just scuppered every move up there, whether it was going to Leeds, Dundee United, or wherever. And that was me, and that was the joys of football. It was a sickener for me, because if I had had it earlier, I could have maybe done something about it. But it put me out for 5 months, and it was a hard one to take.
Since we're still on Scottish football, Mark, just thought I'd ask a question. Was there ever a chance, or rumours or murmurings of you ever getting a chance to go to Rangers?
There was meant to be rumours of me and Chris Brunt going. But you know what? As much as what people say I'm a fan, look, it's got to be right for me. I'm not one of them go and kiss the badges and this and that there, you know what I mean? Which you see some of them at the end of the day. And that's why, I've been up there and I knew it had fans in there, and I'm a fan myself. But I'm doing a job for Dundee, and I wanted us to, as I say, there's no one more that wanted to beat them. But there was rumours of it, and as I say, it had to be right for me, but it just never materialised for both of us at the end of it.
See, I'm not going to lie. I always thought you were in our youth system, but is it your cousin Lee?
My cousin. Rangers bought Lee for 100,000 out of Linfield. And he was the one. I think he made his debut against Dundee, actually. And under Dick Advocaat, and then he got a couple of injuries and it went the other way,
Aye, because I always remember when I used to see your name for Northern Ireland, and I'd be like, oh, he played for us, and then I was like, no, he never. That's not him.
Doing your research.
Don't need to do research when you support that team.
Well,
sorry. How
was, after your injury, how was it trying to get back with the fitness? Was it not the same, or was it just let it take a wee while?
You know what? It was tough, because they said to me I'll never get 100% fit. As I said to you, if it was 5 years before, I would have probably had to finish my career. There was only 2 surgeons at the time who could do the op, a boy from Reading and another one from around Coventry. And, now still this day, if I'm lying there, I can still feel it. Jerks a wee bit. And, probably, you look at my game, it was based around pace. I probably lost that little bit of a yard, and I had to change my game and probably be a little bit more horrible against people. And look, it's never nice, because, whether it was Dundee United or Leeds that time, obviously I failed the medical lab, but Leeds ended up getting up that year. They won the league. And it was such a big club because I started there as a kid. But as I said, it's part and parcel of football. Look, I've no regrets. You look now as well, you never get players fit, and I'm probably suffering now, but you go and ask players now, they need to be 100% fit, where if we were 70% fit, we wanted to go and play. The boys are the amount of painkillers you've seen in the changing rooms before the games. You get locked up. It was a fight to get the painkillers. But as I say, look, it's part and parcel of the game, but I was one of them. Once it was done, I just got my head down and concentrated on getting fit.
So you went to Sheffield Wednesday. You only played one game. That was that due to the injury?
That was crazy. I went. Brian Law signed us on loan. He lasted one game, got sacked. They brought in the youth coach, and he sent all the loans back. But I know. So that was an interesting one. But yeah.
Well, you ended up going to Oldham anyway. How was that experience?
You know what? I'd left Cardiff, and this is the biggest thing I probably learned in football. I lived 20 minutes from Bristol, and there was a club come in for me, and I was haggling over a little bit more money, and they ended up pulling the plug. And obviously I went up to the Oldham, but I just couldn't get clicking at Oldham. I couldn't settle. And I just come to an agreement where, look, I need to go back down south, and said, look, Paul Dickoff, Jerry Tiger, brilliant, great club, but I just needed to get back down south. And I phoned my old chairman who used to be at Leeds with me in Cardiff, Mr. Ridsdale. And as I said, he was at Plymouth at the time, and went back down to Plymouth.
You wanted to go back down south, but you went south, the bottom of England. How was it down in Plymouth?
You know what? Plymouth, your journey doesn't start at Bristol, but what a club! I'm telling you now, what an absolute club. They go to Wembley, they take 50,000, 60,000 to Wembley. The fan base is phenomenal, the size of the club, and there's some good players. But they were in administration at the time, and it was funny. We had Darren Pearce, Guy Branston, Simon Walton, Paul Watton, Nick Chadwick, all players who been championship players, all coming at the end. But the funny thing was, we were minus 11 points with administration. Never been paid in 3 months, and we were minus 11 points, and we ended up staying up that year. And I remember we had like a kitty, which was a hell of an achievement for the club from where it was. But we always had a player kitty at the start, which I was in charge of. So the players would put in £30 at the start, take their name off in a book, put it in the drawer. We'll all go to Benidorm, Magaluf, wherever it was at the end of the year. So great, even better, stayed up. So with 2 games to go, the chairman comes in, he goes, boys, the owner wants to take you to Marbella next week for staying up. We were going, great, but this was before our trip to Benidorm. So we'd stayed up. We went to Marbella, and I can tell you now, it was that crazy, right? We went out there. Reading had just been promoted from the Championship in the Premier League. So we're in one of the bars, and a lot of us weren't like all these. The only Wes Essex was on, and all these. We're not like that. We just give us the other end of Marbella. We just want to go and have a beer. We all have a bit of crack. But we went down to meet a few of the boys. The Reading team were in there. So obviously I knew Ian Hart, the left back, Republic of Ireland from Leeds. Yeah. He goes, Freno, how are you? Here's Mick Hardy, how are you? I said, what are you doing here? And he goes, we're celebrating promotion to the Premier League. He goes, what are you doing here? And here's me. We're celebrating staying up in League Two, mate. He goes, and it was funny. So anyway, we went, had the 3 days, 4 days, brilliant. See, by the time we had to come and meet at the airport the following Friday to go, I can tell you now, no one wanted to go to Benidorm because of how messy the week before was. And I just said you, but no, it was a great club. Plymouth's a great club. Loved my time there. Loved my time there. So I did.
Is it? You started your managerial kind of career with Salisbury.
Salisbury.
Sorry, I was a player assistant. But what inspired you to go into coaching? Was it just the love of the game?
Yeah, you know what? That's funny. I done my A badge when I was 26, 27. And it's something that I wanted to do. If anytime I was injured in a club, I would go and coach the kids with a youth team. I'd say, can I join in? Can I take a warm up? And it was funny. I broke my ankle on John Sheridan's first game. Jumped up for a header, come down, snapped my talus bone, and it was an awful injury. They had to, they say it happens in people in car crashes, but they had to drill the bone to make it bleed, to make it heal. And it was an awful one. But he said to me, look, prove your fitness, I'll half your wage. I wasn't on big money. He says, I was 32 at the time. Prove your fitness or whatever. Prove your fitness, I'll half your money. I got my head down. Every day I was on the bike, and I still to this day hold the record for 10K at Plymouth. No one's beat it. I've put it at the other club, no one's beat it. 5 months of just bang, 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 bang. So come to the point where played all pre-season, got fit. He said, look, I'll ask him, I'll give you my deal. And he's a great man. I love him to bits. But Salisbury came in and offered me assistant manager and a player. And I phoned him and I said, what do you think? He said, go and do it. Go and get on the ladder, go and do it. So I went into the conference, and that put me on the road to managing. Went to Linfield, which my family was with, was there as a kid. And, big club, very professional. But I left when they were top of the league because Newport come calling, and Shays was the manager to go in as his assistant.
How was that then to go into Newport at that point?
It was difficult because they were bottom around the relegation zone, and Shays has got a knack of keeping teams up. But working with him again, he's a great guy. And as I said, that he's, I learned a lot off him. He was another one, very honest, very ruthless with players. But then Like it was Notts County come for him or Oldham again, and he went and I took over around Christmas time and kept them up. And got rid of 19 players that summer. Wanted to bring my own staff in. Wanted to bring my own players. 8 games, which I think Exeter were below us in the league. They got the playoffs that final. And unfortunately, the joys of football, you lose your job, and that's probably the first where I was sacked, where the other ones had left. And as I said, it was a learning curve in the game. It just shows you how ruthless it can be.
How would you describe your managerial style? Because at the time, was Scott Bennett, the captain? He was gutted that you left. So the man management style must have been...
Yeah, it goes back to what I said earlier. I was always brought up, and as I said, Craig was one, Mike Newell at Luton, Sammy, the managers were now you get these head coaches. There's no right, there's no wrong way for me to win a game of football. You get your players playing for you. People I love, Mourinho, Conte, Simone. Simone's a 4-4-2. What team do you get playing 4-4-2 now? Where a 4-2-3-1 for me rolls around as a 4-2-4, you could say. And that time at Newport, I just get my players playing, I get them enjoying it. You got to go and enjoy it, but work hard and always be honest. And that's what I tried to take from other managers. And it was so early, as I said, you turned over 19 players and to lose it in 8 games. And it was just, as I said, it's difficult to take, but that's football.
What I wanted to ask you was, you done something that I find really refreshing for a young manager in this country is you chose to go abroad. You went out to Bulgaria. How was that experience?
You know what? I absolutely loved it. And probably, I said this the other day, and I loved coming back. My friend at Welling to save his team. They were minus, I think, 2-3 points in the relegation. And he asked me to go and save them. I kept them up. If I probably stayed in Bulgaria or else, when I left, I'd probably be looking at top League One jobs because my stock was very high. I think they've done the thing in the paper with me and Graham Potter were the only British managers to go abroad and win cups, leagues. Yeah. But I went out there. It was I got a phone call from a guy called Graham Warren who was working for Emirates Wealth. Now the guy who owned them was a Russian American, and you could have put a football, and a tennis racket. He wouldn't know what was the difference, But I got on with him really well, and he said to me, "Look, do you want to come out to Bulgaria?" And I went, "Bulgaria." And I'd went out with Luton in pre-season 20 odd years ago, and believe me, it wasn't what it was when I went out there to have a look. So anyway, I went out to the club, and I went, "Yeah, I like it." So they offered me the job, and I went in, I kept them up, but I knew it needed turned over. Now there was resistance because they trained every night at 7:00 full time because of the heat. Every home game, you were in a hotel. And then obviously you had the language, so straight away I went, "Give me an interpreter." But also I started learning the little bits I needed in Bulgarian. So straight away, take the home hotel out, go to your home, go and live in your beds the night before a game. We were training at 10:00 every morning. It was all over the papers. This crazy British man wants to train in 40-degree heat. That's where I was giving the players a day off during the week. And to be honest, I'd kept them up. I started looking around local players who had played outside the country, and it's a funny story, to be honest. And I say this when I'm doing a conferences or whatever. At this one player, he lived in the biggest house in the city, owned half the city. He had played at PSV Eindhoven, Dynamo Moscow, Fulham, Ludogorets, CSK. Unbelievable. He was 36 years of age, and I went, "I'm going to bring him in." Looked around the ones who had played outside the country from Bulgaria, from the region. And it's the region now where Berbatov was born. So anyway, I walked in first day of pre-season. And, foreign players, they like to smoke. I couldn't even see. It was like walking out of a nightclub. There was smoke everywhere in the changing room. So I went, "Where's Manolev?" And they went, "What?" I said, "Where's Manolev?" And they went, boss, in the toilet." I walked into the toilet. Stanislav was sat there puffing away on Marlboro Lights or something they were, and he had this little rakia, which is like a local. You think you could strip the walls with it? I'm being honest. This is before I said, "Stanislav, are you taking the F out of me?" And he went, boss, "Don't worry, I will win you the league." 36 years of age. Honest to goodness, he trained as if it was his last day on earth, and he won me the league. He was every training session, every game. And I'm looking at it going, there's young pros. You couldn't even get where he didn't need the money. You can Google him after. The career he had was phenomenal. And he trained, and honestly, come the end of it, won the league. And, it got to a point where we got into the top league, but it was so hard. We had the smallest budget. And I had a couple of British people with me, but it was difficult because the locals like local people. And you know what? I got into that top league, but it was a different ball game. I think we had 1.2 million budget at the time. Ludogorets was about 40 million. CSK 20 odd. Levski. It was just, and they had players from everywhere, Spain, Cyprus. It was just a different ball game, and it didn't. The owner wanted me to stay. And I'm being honest, I had a CEO who was hard work. I'll be honest, me and him clashed. And he was Bulgarian, and as I said, but the owner didn't care. He said, I want you to stay. And I just come there and said, look, boss, nothing against you, but it was difficult then out there where, you're in it. One of the staff wanted to go back to England, and you're out, and I just thought, look, my time's up. But as I said, I've nothing. Still speak to a lot of people out there, and if you want to go on holiday, go. I'm telling you now, it's a lovely, lovely place, beautiful place.
My son's going in September.
Where's he going? Sunny Beach?
Aye.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because see the Bulgarians, they're very rigorous in what to do. They'll go up the mountains for 4 weeks training. Here, boys, we're going to Sunny Beach for pre-season. And I'm not messing you. The chaos it caused over there. This crazy British man again. He's a clown, doesn't know what he's doing. I just tried to treat it like I knew in Britain. Well, we were brought up, and the boys knew it. They were down the slides in their time off in the pool where, they would go up the mountains for 4 weeks, train every day and get bored. And to be fair, they bought into it, but there's some lovely places just down from that, Nezabar, Golden Sands, but it's a lovely, lovely place. But I was right where your son is. I was right on the other side of the country, right on the border with Greece. So we were about 5 hours from Sunny Beach. He's got to have the rakia. Tell him
He's 11.
he's got to have it. Tell him to have it with the local cheese, tomatoes, and cucumber. I'm telling you now, it's beautiful.
I'll say to him, he'll probably tell me not.
You ended up in, is it Welling United?
Yes.
And how did your time there? How was that?
You know what? It was Mark Goldberg was the chairman at the time, and I had a friend who was helping him, and he just said to me, "Can you come and save us?" They were in the relegate. Went in, kept them up. And you know what? A guy who I'm very, very friendly with still owns him this day. I still call him the boss, and I had a great time there. We had a great 2 years there, and I know they look at it, but I'd kept welling up and given their highest finish in 5 years. And probably me, I'm a focal person. I'll stand my ground in anything, and I'd rather use Galway and go. At least these are. There's no grey areas with him, and football can be like at times. But and as I said to you, it's where I'd never done social media. At the end of the day, I was in to do a job, and you could see some of the fans got excited with this, but I just focus on my job. But I had a good time there. I still speak to the boss a lot now, and a lot of time for him. A lot of time for him.
You ended up at Glentoran after that. Was there a bit of a not a backlash, but was there people a wee bit, like you saying, vocal about your appointment?
Yeah, there was a backlash, all right. I think the last time I was at the Oval, I think I was standing like that, having a Linfield shirt on after we beat them. But no, I went in, obviously. But you know what? Glentoran's a great club. And I'm from East Belfast. Listen, the Oval's 1 mile from my house, where I am now. Obviously, my dad was a legend there. I'm with Linfield. But I went in to do a professional job. They hadn't won the league in, I think it's 14, 15 years. I hadn't won a cup in, I think they won one cup in 4 years. I knew it was going to be a big turnover. But you know what it was always like? It was going to be hard with my Linfield background. took them to a semi-final, which I didn't get a chance to play in. Took them to a final of a cup, but they just decided, probably because you say social media, and some of them don't have, the backbone to stand on the ground. Like we'd be winning games, it'd be booing me off the pitch. But football's football. I quite like it. I'd go in there and do a job, and that was it. And as I said, it was an interesting time. Believe me, I'd been walking down the street with my dog, and people would be out the window shouting. It was probably more dangerous, like getting into a barn out there with Linfield or Glentoran fans, than it was if I went into the Rock Bar in the Falls Road and had a pint with Celtic fans.
But you're way Weymouth just now, and how has it been coming back into English football?
You know what? It's good, because I was out in America coaching with a Scottish boy actually called Matt Driver, who he lives in Florida. He was Stevie Nicholls' number 2, but they got to the point where you just love that, club football. And I got a phone call, can you come in and keep us up and help us? Obviously, I looked where they were, but they hadn't won a home game in 316 days, and they hadn't scored a goal before the 70th minute at home. So I knew straight away it's a big psychological, I've got to try and get over. But I think we ended up with five or six home wins, and about 24 goals before the 70th minute. But it was just too big a gap to try and get to. And it said to the club, look, you need to reset. A great chairman, great board, great staff, and it's a big club, big proud history. But I just said, look, reset. Let's clear the decks and let's go again. So that's where we're in the middle of trying to get the right players in.
So is that the plan for next season then, mate? Just automatic promotion straight back up again?
Automatic, yes, automatic. Obviously, the chairman wants to hear that, but I said to him, just, keep everything cool, because there's 20 other teams on automatic promotion. So I just play everything down. But he's texted me there now at the minute, says I'm out for the weekend. I'm having a bottle of wine. But if you need anything, here's me. I need another $5,000 to get another striker.
So, are Weymouth in the Conference League?
No, they're in. They got relegated. They're in the Southern Division league. So,
because the Conference League was right tight at the top, wasn't it? We have about 5 or 6 of them getting into the last games.
The Conference Leagues are hard. I think out of the 24 teams, I think 22 of them are all professional now. It's tough league. There's a lot of money going in as well. So, but no,
a lot of money going into that league as well, because you see like Wrexham and stuff like that. I think a lot of maybe investors would go into the sort of
with Mark White.
There'll be a lot of clubs now. They're getting more money due to that. I would say.
You look as well, but you look at the amount of American owners now coming into the game at all levels. You know what I mean? That's what I says. Football will be on Netflix soon, I'm telling you.
American owners came to Scotland today, didn't they?
Yeah. The 49ers. Hey.
I wanted to ask you, mate, before we go, about you mentioned them earlier, but your son George.
Yes.
So obviously he's a professional. Well, not professional, but he's a player now. He's just recently signed for Tottenham. I was watching a few clips of him, mate. He's looking good, there.
You know what? Again, look, we keep him grounded, but he doesn't get sucked. He's a good kid, to be fair to him. But he went over there as a striker and have put him in the midfield. And I must admit, it surprised me. But the trust in the coaches have been brilliant to him. They like him. He plays like a man, and he's a long way to go. But the big thing is he's enjoying it, which, as I said, is important. He's at a great club. He's got good people around him, good coaches around him. And the big thing is he's got a smile on his face, which you said to him, whenever you go in every day, you've got to be the best player in that changing room. And, he takes it on board. But as I say, he's got a long way to go.
And I know that he's maybe got a wee bit of a decision to make when it comes to international football.
He does, but I think it'll be, look, obviously with he was born in Wales, but, he's got a lot of mates in Northern Ireland. And, look, it's whatever he decides. But I think it's probably with Northern Ireland, because his grand will shout at him. Even though he's born in Wales.
You can't lose the family.
He sat here listening to me, give me the evil look. Aye.
Good luck, George. We wish you all the luck in the world,
Aye,
mate.
definitely.
Aye, mate. Pick Northern Ireland there, Wales.
Aye. More chance of doing
Um,
something.
Aye, so I think we'll call it a day there. Warren, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you,
No
mate.
problem.
You're a total gentleman. Your stories have been fantastic. You had an amazing career, and we really wish you all the best for the future.
No,
There's
anytime,
so
no
many,
problem at
many
all.
times we get Rangers men on.
That's that.
But we still pick
Oh,
Doon for
by the
the
way,
outside.
before we go, actually, before we go, I wanted to ask you that question.
Yep.
Would you like to come up to Scotland and manage at some point in your career?
I would do. You know what? As I said to you, it's I've a lot of good memories up there. I was up a lot. As I said, they get up when I was playing, and I never missed a game. And I've got good friends up there. I really enjoyed my time at Dundee United, and I definitely would do. Definitely would do.
49ers
Well-
might be on the phone. Then we'll get off the.
Never mind that. I'm only 5 minutes from the corner for the district bar. Piece of shit.
Down the grapes.
Right, Warren, thanks very much.
See you later.
Cheers,
Take care.
mate.
See you later,
See ya.
mate.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye bye.